Lisa Hiles from Perfectly Spoken. Thank you for joining me. I'm doing lesson 10 of my B1 course for intermediate learners, or for those of you with an IELTS score of about 4. Lesson 10 is a review lesson. So we'll be reviewing, and I'll be testing your knowledge of all the things that we've done, vocabulary and grammar, in lessons 6 to 9. Okay, and I really recommend that you do this before moving on to lessons 11 to 14, because obviously we build on your knowledge as we go along. Okay, without further ado, as they say, let's move on to task 1. Complete the table with the correct irregular past participle of the verb show. Here we go. Read, read. It's read. Read, read, have or has read. 2, speak. Speak, spoke. Spoken. Have or has spoken. Yeah, the past participle is spoken. 3, write. Write, wrote, written. Have or has written. I'll show you the spellings in a moment. Number 4, try. Try, tried, have or has tried. Meet. Meet, met, met. That's right, have or has met. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make. Make, made, made. Have or has made. And finally, go. Go, went, been, or gone. Do you remember this from past lessons on the present perfect? Perhaps you remember. Let's have a look at the answers together. So, for example, if we say I've been to Italy, I'm in England now, talking about I went to Italy and I came back. I've been to Italy. If I'm speaking to you from Italy, I say I've gone to Italy and I'm still there. So go has 2 past participles depending on the meaning. It's all good, isn't it? Okay, here's some practice of the present perfect. Complete these questions with the correct past participle from the table in task 1. So you've got a choice here. You can either try to remember, or you can go back, look at task 1, and then fit them into the questions. Here we go. Number 1. Have you ever a big mistake at work or school? Have you ever made a big mistake at work or school? Number 2, have you ever a book in English? Have you ever read a book in English? Number 3, have you ever an email in English? Have you ever written an email in English? Number 4, have you ever English food? Have you ever tried English food? Number 5, have you ever in English for more than an hour? Have you ever spoken in English for more than an hour? Number 6, have you ever anyone you really admire? Admire means really like, maybe they have things that you really respect. For example, a person I admire is somebody like Bill Gates. He's made lots and lots of money, and yet he gives away lots of money to help people in Africa. So have you ever met anyone you really admire? And finally, number 7, have you ever to an English-speaking country? Most natural, have you ever been to an English-speaking country? Let's have a look at those answers there. So there they are. And I make the point in number 7. Have you ever been to an English country if you're in your own country? Or have you ever gone to an English-speaking country if you're still in one? How did you do? Okay, go back and ask the questions to yourself again, and then answer them with yes, I have, or no, I haven't, and maybe give some more information to improve your speaking skills. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, time phrases with the present perfect. Okay, put the word in brackets in the correct place in sentences 1 to 7. Okay, so here we've got, I've read this brilliant book by William Boyd. Just, he's a great writer. So the just has got to go in the first sentence, which is in the present perfect. Where do you put it? Does it go in the middle or at the end of the sentence? Can you remember? I've just read this brilliant book by William Boyd. He's a great writer. So it goes between the auxiliary have and the past participle read. I've just read. Okay, number 2. My husband's been unwell this week. He has hurt his back. Does the this week come in the middle, after the auxiliary, or at the end? At the end. My husband's been unwell this week. He's hurt his back. Number 3. I haven't cooked dinner yet. My kids are very hungry. So the yet, does it go between the auxiliary and the past participle? Or at the end? I haven't cooked dinner yet. My kids are very hungry. I've finished my studies already. Have you? So the already needs to go in the first clause, but where? I've already finished my studies. Have you? Question. Have you taken your driving test yet? It goes at the end, doesn't it? Have you taken your driving test yet? Number 6. I've drunk 5 cups of coffee already, and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. That's what happens to me if I drink too much coffee. Where do we put the already? At the end or between the auxiliary have and the past participle drunk? I've already drunk 5 cups of coffee. Number 7, we've got the word just. I've heard some great news. My friend is having another baby. So I've heard some great news. Where can we put just in that sentence? I've just heard some great news. my friend is having another baby. Okay, here are the answers. Now, I covered the present perfect and all its uses of the present perfect simple and these time phrases in lesson 7. So if you're having problems with this, please go back to lesson 7, okay? And try again. Strong adjectives from lesson 6. Okay, what are the strong adjectives for the following base forms? Okay, big. So how do we say very, very big? Give me an adjective. That's right, enormous, enormous. Small. Give me a strong adjective that means very, very small. Yes, tiny, tiny. Clever. So give me an adjective that means very, very clever. Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. A brilliant student, a brilliant idea when somebody or something is very clever. Interesting. So when something is very, very, very interesting, what is it? What's its strong adjective form? Yes, it's fascinating. Fascinating. Sure. So if you're not just sure, you're very, 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 very sure. You are? Give me the strong form. Certain. Yeah. And this is the form we used in lesson 6, certain. When I did some lesson with this on Facebook, a student said convinced, which is also very, very good. But certain is the one I'd like you to use here. And finally, hungry. How do you say very, very, very hungry? That's right, starving. Starving. So if you can't remember these, please go back to lesson 6 and you will find them at the beginning of the class. Okay? Good stuff. Here we go. So we've done big, enormous, small, tiny, clever, brilliant, interesting, fascinating, sure, certain, and hungry, starving. Now we're going to use those strong forms to complete the following sentences. Here we go. I love working with her. Her ideas are brilliant. Her ideas are brilliant. Number 2, I hope you find learning English really fascinating. Yeah. Number 3, my kids' hands and feet were when they were born. So when they were babies, their hands and feet were, listen, tiny, tiny. My 8-year-old son's feet are, he can wear my shoes. They are enormous. Okay, number 5. In my opinion, Italian food is absolutely, I love it. So it's not just good, it's not just tasty, it's delicious. Yeah. Okay, and number 6, I haven't eaten all day. I'm starving, of course. And here are the answers for you. Can you see them? They're the words in green. They're good fun, strong adjectives, aren't they? They sound more interesting than their base forms, and that's exactly what they do. They add more interest, they add more drama, if you like, to your English vocabulary, to how you sound or to how your writing sounds. It just adds more flavour, if you like. Okay, numbers. We looked at numbers, I think. Was it in lesson 8? Yes, it was. Numbers and statistics. So, are these written forms of the numbers right, tick, or wrong, cross? Okay, have a look. 1, first. Is that how you spell right first? Is that how you write it? If yes, put tick. If no, put cross. Number 2, second. Tick or cross. 3, third. 4, fifth. 5, 20th century. 6, 68.5. 7, 99.5%. 8, 101. 9, 2007. And 10, 2017. So you have to put a tick if you think they're good and a cross if you think they are wrong. How did you do? Here we go. So the spelling of first is F-I-R-S-T. Second and third are correct. Number 4, it's not fifth, it's fifth. So the spelling is F-I-F-T-H. Those of you taking IELTS, it's a good one for you to learn. Same with 20th century. Take away the Y. Yeah, 20th century. 68.5 correct. 99.5%. Okay. 101, not 101, and the 9 and 10 are correct. 2007 and 2017. Some people say 2017. Okay, so that's right, or 2017. Nova says 27. They just don't. 2007 for number 9. Phrasal verbs. I think this was also in lesson 6, as it says here. And in number 1, I would like you to give me the phrasal verb for to argue with. What's the phrasal verb for to argue with? Okay, number 1, do you ever with your siblings? Who wins? So I want the phrasal verb for to argue with. Do you ever fall out with your siblings? Fall out. Okay, number 2, I'd like the phrasal verb which means have a good relationship with. Have a good relationship with. Number 2, do you go your boss? Can you remember? Do you get along with your boss? You can also say get along well with or get on with. They all mean the same. They're phrasal verbs for have a good relationship with. Number 3, this phrasal verb means to calm your life down, to get married, to have one job, to own a house, to stay in one place, to maybe have children. All of that in 2 words. Are you ready to and get married, or are you too young? Can you remember? Are you ready to settle down and get married, or are you too young? Settle down. Number 4, my husband's business is growing, so he needs more staff. Here, this phrasal verb means to employ or to give a job to. And it begins with a T and an O. Listen, take on. My husband's business is growing, so he needs to take on, employ, give jobs to more staff. He needs to take on more staff. And the opposite verb I need is in number 5. So when you don't employ someone anymore, you stop giving work to somebody. When the summer finishes, many hotels have to let staff go because there is no more work. Can you remember that phrasal verb from lesson 6? It's let staff go because there's no more work. So you have to let them staff go, stop giving them work. Here are the answers. If you need some more work on those phrasal verbs, back to the second half of lesson 6. It'll be worth it. Or maybe go to the test of lesson 6 and test your memory again. Telephone language. Lesson 9, using the telephone. Really good one for those of you who have to use the phone at work. Okay, complete these telephone phrases with a correct verb. 1, could I to Lisa Hiles, please? Could I speak to Lisa Hiles, please? Or talk. Could I talk to Lisa Hiles, please? So number 1, speak or talk. Number 2, whose, please? So this is a phrase that means who is it? Or who are you? What we use on the phone when we want to sound polite. Number 2, who's calling, please? Do you remember from lesson 9? Who's calling, please? Number 3, I'm afraid Lisa available at the moment. It's another way of saying Lisa isn't here, she isn't free. Yeah, isn't. I kind of gave you the answer. Sorry, I'm afraid Lisa isn't available at the moment. Number 4, could I her a message? Could I leave her a message, okay? Or could I send her a message? But leave is more natural. And finally, could you ask her to me back as soon as possible? So the word there that my head is sticking over is possible. Shall I just see if I can move my head down a little bit? Oh, there you go. Take my head out of the way. Could you ask her to me back as soon as possible? Which verbs could go there? Yes, could you ask her to call or phone me back as soon as possible? And here are the answers to that task. That is the end of the test for lessons 6 to 9. There was a lot in there. The present perfect simple is something that students find difficult throughout their studies. Even an advanced level student will still make mistakes with the present perfect simple. So it might be worth going back to lesson 7. It might be a good idea to go back to lesson 7 and do the present perfect again, matching all of the uses that we went through, and then with the time phrases, and there was plenty of practice. If telephoning is your thing, go back to unit 9 and start repeating the phrases again. If you love the strong adjectives, well, you can find those in lesson 6, along with the phrasal verbs to talk about life events at work or in your private life. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. I hope you find it useful, and I look forward to seeing you again really soon. Thanks for listening. Bye now.